your work doesn't end when it IPOs.
A lot of people think of an IPO as an end point when it's just really a new beginning.
How's the regulator dealing with and communicating with the market?
So we came a long way. Back then, let's say more than 90% of trades were all retail investors. So the regulator and the government had a very big, heavy oversight role.
How's AI changing your thesis as an investor?
It forces you to sharpen your view and take a stronger position on what you believe in will work in the future.
Welcome to On Point by Argam. Today I'm joined by Abdulaziz Alomran, founder and CEO of Impact 46. Abdulaziz is one of the most active investors in Saudi Arabia, backing companies such as Jahez and Rasan through successful IPOs and supporting others now approaching the public markets. He is also expanding into private credit and gaming, helping shape the kingdom's evolving capital landscape. In this episode, we talk about public market performance, capital discipline, and where Saudi investment is heading next. This is On Point, real conversations, global perspective, and I'm your host, Samyaria.
This episode of On Point is presented by STC Bank, driving financial innovation across the kingdom.
Thank you so much for being here. You have been one of the early supporters of my documentaries as I started working in Saudi Arabia. And people told me that you really have to talk to Impact 46. They're the most successful VC in Saudi Arabia. So starting from the grassroots, tell me about your story. How did you get started in investing? How much of it was luck? How much of it was hard work? And what made you so successful?
Thanks a lot, Somi, for this opportunity. I feel really honored to be part of this interview and podcast. I hope the viewers and listeners enjoy our discussion. And thank you again for the invitation. How it all started, I guess, of course, there's a lot of luck along the way, for sure. But I'm sure there is also a thread that connects everything together. My background, I started my career in investment banking, moved to Riyadh actually just to try out myself in investment banking. Came to love the city and like the energy and stayed ever since. After investment banking, I moved on to some entrepreneurial ventures, different entrepreneurial ventures. And I think my connection to the startup world started with Uqal, which was founded around 2011. We were proud to be the first angel investors network at the time. And that kept on. I was, of course, I have to remember Faris Al-Rashid, who was the founder and the first person that brought me into this, the entrepreneurship scene, let's say, in the kingdom. It was at the time led by passion, people that believed in entrepreneurship as a way of changing the world, really, challenging the status quo. It kept on continuing that way up until April 2018, when the Crown Prince visited Silicon Valley, and the first announcement when he came back was the government's intention to set up a fund-to-fund program and turn on the switch for the digital economy in Saudi Arabia. That was really the turning point when I started, not just me, many people started thinking maybe not do this for fun and passion and start thinking more seriously on an institutional level investment. And started working, and luckily by end of 2019, we were actually the first fund to be backed by the Fund of Funds program. At the time, it was called Munshaat. Now it's SVC. And here we are. Suddenly, what started off as just passion and doing what you like turned to something more serious and a formal setting and an investment vehicle. I used all the experience and knowledge I had from investment banking, from entrepreneurship, from my family background, brought it all together, and was lucky to set up the first VC fund in the country. I think timing couldn't have been better.
So have you ever actually worked a day in your life, or did you always just invest? Did you like what I mean is like did you ever
Yes. Well,
run
my
a
investment
startup?
banking.
Oh, yes,
my
yes,
investment banking was quite
of course.
serious, and then
Yes.
and then the startups, of course.
Yes.
I did, the investment banking was quite tough in the beginnings of the Saudi capital markets, and then after that, I set up a digital online printing business. That was my beginning. I think, and that these two experiences shaped who I am in a great way, in a big way.
And how did you go from that to becoming? Probably, were you the first investor that had an IPO?
VC-backed company, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was the first VC-backed. Jahez was the first.
It was Rasan,
exactly.
Right? Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that experience of those two companies, how you took them? Or maybe from the founder's perspective, they might say that the investor didn't take us, but you
of course.
played.
No, we only have. Okay.
You played an important role in their success. And where are those two companies right now today?
Okay. Let me start with our investment thesis, let's say. At Impact 46, we wanted to, as I said, we wanted to build something strong, something world-class, not just here to just show off and participate, and rather build and create an impact, like our name. So we formulated our investment thesis, which was based on finding world champions, global champions, and then looking for local equivalents. That helped us start on strong footings, and rather than trying out new ideas, we were really just going after the bigger bets. So we saw in on-demand delivery, we saw DoorDash in the US, and quickly spotted Jahez and the chefs locally. So we invested into on-demand delivery. We saw fintech, Klarna and Square and the likes. We invested in Tamara, Lendo, and Hala afterwards. On the used car marketplaces, we saw Carvana, invested in Sayara here. So that helped us really take the clutter out and focus more on what will become big companies. Now, soon after that, you enjoy, of course, the growth. We were excited about the growth the companies achieved. We saw how big they became very quickly, grew exponential growth for especially the first few years. We thought our investments were doing well, but until then, it was still paper gains, really, more than anything. Of course, paper gains are nice, especially in VC. We see a lot of paper gains, but distributions are king always. And that's how we came to the IPO idea. It was new to the market. At the first, a tech company, a VC-backed tech company to be listed, wasn't an obvious candidate for an IPO. So the first IPO, we did it in Nemo, just to make sure we have blessings from all the different stakeholders. And that's when early 2022, Jahez IPO, January 2022. Soon after that, let's say, Rasan is a signal that the market is maturing and is thinking more seriously of tech plays. Rasan is today trading at, I think, $3 or $4 billion market cap. So our first IPO, we distributed about $750 million back to investors. On the second one, Rasan, we distributed close to $270 million back to investors as well. So I think these two IPOs were validation that what we're doing is not just fun passionate VC investors on the tertiary, but it was real investment and real returns and real money to investors. So I think what we've done so far is a very good start for what's coming in the future, and enabling the digital economy in the kingdom needs investors that have realized strong capital gains and saw distributions, saw real returns, to believe and invest more and see more investments go towards the sector.
From my observation, the Saudi market is very heavy retail investors. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I see. And sometimes when I talk to retail investors, they complain sometimes a little bit about the state of the markets, if the market is down a little bit. As an investor, as a VC that you know that invested in some of these companies that have gone ahead and IPO'd, what's the aftercare in a way? You know, like how do you continue the investor relations, and how do you continue the communication with retail investors that then go and buy the shares, and then maybe they look at the shares going up or down? And how do you communicate with that? Because I sometimes feel like your work doesn't end when it IPOs. A lot of times, you know, it continues. And do you ever wake up in the morning thinking, oh my God, now I have to deal with that?
Absolutely. Yes,
yeah,
very
so
true.
tell me.
Very true. Yes, IPO is just, yes, a lot of people think of an IPO as an end point when it's just really a new beginning. I fully agree. And more often than not, it actually brings in a heavier burden than you thought before coming into the company. So there isn't an easy way to manage investors and shareholders communication. It's just continuous disclosure and continuous communication. Sometimes you're and it all depends on so many different dynamics. Market, of course, financial performance is the key. I think is the only thing you can influence, and it's the biggest. It has the biggest contribution towards stock performance. Hopefully, now when you mentioned investors, retail investors. How they sometimes complain about performance when it's not really in one's control. You don't always control your performance. You can try and hope to do well, but it doesn't always work out. Of course, you have to know that sometimes it doesn't. I would say I focus on the success, on the underlying success in financial performance of the companies. If you look at, for instance, if you look at Rasan, for instance, when we first started talking to the market, to the company, I think they were generating around 40 million riyal of revenue or so. That was in 2021, by the way, 2020, early 2021. They just announced last year's financials, 2025, so that's 5 years ahead. They've generated 650 million riyal of revenue, 260 million riyal of net income. It only tells you that technology, the exponential growth you see in technology is difficult to match anywhere else. We still have a very low representation of technology in our index. I think there is a big room to see more technology companies being listed and forming part of the index and part of the wider economy, really. Even if still 650 million riyal of revenue is, of course, big for Rasan, but in the bigger scheme of things, it's still a small part of the economy. Our hope is to see technology contributing a much bigger slice to the economy and diversify the overall economy and replace the let's say conventional sources of income to generate new and sustainable income sources.
All right. So now it's my understanding that you're on the advisory board of CMA, right? Which is the capital market authority here in Saudi Arabia. So from that perspective, how is the regulator dealing with and communicating with the market when these discussions happen?
So we came a long way. The Capital Market Authority was set up in 2004, I believe. And back then it was close to, let's say, more than 90% of trades were all retail investors. So the regulator and the government had a very big, heavy oversight role. They had to really make sure as much as possible fairness and transparency is there. And they were very meticulous and rigorous in reviewing every offering, every transaction. They had to be a part of they had to play a big role in the market because of the nature of a retail investor denominated market. Today, I mean, we've evolved. I think retail is less than 40% today of trading. So that helps. That means that the remaining is all institutional, sophisticated investors that know what they're doing and hopefully don't require as much, let's say, protection and interference as much as we used to. So the CMA has also evolved in its approach towards regulating the market, and they took a more risk-based approach rather than a control of everything approach that like it used to happen in the past. Now it's more around disclosures, just making sure you're making the right disclosures and communicating what you need to communicate, and then let the market play its role, and the dynamism of the market should lead us to the right outcomes, hopefully. Unfortunately, we still have the culture of blaming the regulator for anything that goes wrong with financial performance, for instance, which isn't really never linked, really. I mean, someone that writes the rules doesn't really influence prices or cannot influence financial performance of these companies. But unfortunately, we still have that culture within retail investors, especially. I hope we're gradually getting rid of that culture, but it's not out yet. I agree. You see, in discussing, I'm sure in any majlis or any meet in Saudi, complaining about the stock market is a daily staple, and go after companies and take it personal, out from the normal, let's say, market criticism you would see in any other country where people would be more focused on the general view, on the index, on the macro. Yeah, I know the people here. In Saudi, still take the stock market personally.
This is kind of an important conversation because now we are attracting international investors. We are telling international buyers to come and also invest in the Saudi stock market, in the Saudi ecosystem, and I think that communication is more important than ever. And we need the Saudi population to be very bullish about the Saudi stock market, so that the international market also comes in and says, like, we want to be part of this. So why do you think, do you feel that in some ways the Saudi stock market is a little bit more volatile or less volatile than the global stock market or the US stock market? The reason why I'm asking is that sometimes the smaller a market is, the more volatility it sees. Whereas in an environment where you have lots and lots of companies, the volatility kind of evens out a little bit. So what's your thoughts on that?
Okay, first of all, we are the largest market in the region, so it's not a small market anymore. And And I want to say, when I said people complaining about the stock market, by the way, it's a mixed bag. A lot of people also, when they're happy, they brag about their gains and talk about them every day. So it's not just, you probably hear the criticism of people that are upset, but there are also the people that are happy about it and brag about it. And it speaks for the culture of being connected to the market. I think engaging the wider population is also helpful, and we don't want to lose that completely. We just want more institutional, more sophisticated investors. You said something, you asked about the volatility of the market. I agree. I think Saudi market is probably, I haven't done the math exactly, but I would expect it to be more volatile than others, simply because we're a commodity-led economy, and that's by nature more volatile than other industries, and it trickles down to stock market. At the end of the day, stock market is just a reflection of the economy's performance, and if our biggest export is oil and commodities, we're bound to be affected by price movements there. So it is volatile, and we are growing and attracting institutional investors, and the market is already dominated by institutional investors. So I think any international investor coming in will find that the market is a lot more developed than most people think. You'd be comfortable to know that we have a very, very strong regulator that's very serious about market practices and making sure all the participants are adhering to the rules and playing by the rules. I think I'm proud to be part of this part of the, let's say, evolution of the Saudi stock market, and I think the future will only show how what a big role this market has to do for Saudi and the wider region as a whole. I think from what I see, how the markets are becoming interconnected. I think Saudi Stock Exchange has a role to play for the wider region, not just the Saudi economy. And I think the regulators are working hard to make that hopefully a reality.
In general, how correlated is the Saudi stock market with the global stock market? Is it like how much? How let's say on a scale of 1 being completely decoupled to 10 being completely correlated? Where do you think roughly it sits?
Becoming a lot more connected. You just reminded me of yes. I think a while back it was. If I'm not mistaken, around Christmas Day, Saudi saw I think it was one of the lowest trading volumes. It tells you that this is new to Saudi, that the dependency on foreign or international investors playing a big role in the stock market is still, I would say, relatively new to many people. So you see these observations are becoming a lot more visible now. We're moving. Yeah, sometimes sudden movements in the stock market are not explained by local events, are better explained by international events. Let's say things happening in the US or elsewhere. China, you start to see connectivity on a scale we haven't seen before, or we're not used to. Exact correlation, I haven't done the math really, but I expect it to be quite correlated to.
So like
markets.
increasingly correlated.
Increasingly correlated.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know if you feel comfortable talking a little bit about the geopolitical situation in the region right now. So when people from the outside look at Saudi Arabia as a place to invest, what would you say to them? You know, like maybe when you go to London and you meet, and the reason why I say London, you know, because you're in London quite a lot, but like US, wherever, you know, when you meet international investors that are thinking about investing in the Saudi markets, if they ask you that question, what would you say to them?
Okay, I think if you look at, let's say from the lens we used was in technology investing, even if you were, you took a step back and said, now where will I invest in the region? And this, without the fact that I am from here and know the market, a big population, tech savvy, and a coherent population, let's say. I know people that invest in other countries where you have different communities within the country. I think Saudi, it's one language, one culture, one identity. I mean, it's worthwhile. It's worth your time to invest in doing something valuable to this coherent population. Just like any other country, I mean, it matters. Size does matter, and I think if you're looking for something that's in the region that's worth your time, I think the Saudi market give really good, are appealing, let's say, attributes.
Here at Argam, they love numbers. So I ask every guest to share something number-heavy, statistical, something that makes us wonder, how did I not know this? So I was wondering whether you have any interesting numbers to share with us.
Okay, so it's interesting to know that, let's say, the $1 billion we distributed was on the back of an investment of around, let's say, $150 million only. So it was 6 times the investments we made. These are total funds till then. Not specific investments, but even the overall funds. So I think the returns we've generated are real and enticing. Now, maybe something around financial performance to show of underlying companies, to show the scale of growth that we've witnessed. I remember Hala, for instance, it's a payment company that we invested in, and it also ventured into financing lately. When we first engaged the company, the revenues they were generating were around 8 million riyals, so about $2 million or so. Last year, they finished the year at 500 million riyal, which is so that over the span of 5 years or 6 years, from going from $2 million to $130 million is quite an achievement. These things only happen in technology, I guess. And that kind of growth you can only see in technology, and that keeps us going every day and keeps the energy. We feel everyone in the team thinks does have that belief. If I miss this opportunity, it might become the next $1 billion opportunity for the firm, and it's not easy to spot where the big investment will come from. That's what keeps us going, and I hope we continue to deliver the same track record we've been delivering. It's obviously not as continuing to deliver is not as easy as doing the first few years of successful investing, but we're working hard to keep it and maintain it that way.
Yeah, it's like having a hit record, and then you're expected to keep producing hits. So I have a couple of questions. One is about your next fund. So
yes.
you're on your third fund now?
On our third
okay.
fund.
So we can talk a little bit about that. But before we get to that, of the portfolio that you have now, how much of it is pure technology and how much of it is infrastructure, or do you mainly focus on just technology? Is that how you think of your portfolio? And within technology, I feel like it's like a spectrum of companies that are, again, even though they are technology, on some levels they are infrastructure. For example, let's say if you invest in a company that is similar to Uber,
yes.
or, you know, let's say Kareem, or if you invest in Tamara, you know, these are companies that, yes, they are technology, but also they are filling a layer of
Absolutely.
infrastructure, right? And then there are things that are a little bit more on the spectrum of, you know, not day-to-day needs, but things like gaming,
yes.
you know, where it's like it becomes entertainment and like next level. Talk to me a little bit about how you think about this spectrum of companies that you invest in, and then tell me a little bit about your Fund 3 and where your focus is going.
So yes, these large companies, especially the listed ones and a few others we're working with, I also view them as infrastructure enablers, let's say, for the wider tech ecosystem. I think you need big technology players to enable other companies. It starts from let's say the engineering talent that you have. You need a really big pool of different engineers to be working on these companies and solving daily problems, bringing solutions to these problems, and that proliferates across other companies. So I agree with the notion of having big technology companies is actually a bedrock for others to flourish. You can't have, although you do sometimes have companies that flourish on their own, but I think it's helpful to be within a country or a city that has a few large technology companies. It only helps other companies to emerge. So yes, Jahez, Rasan, and Hala, and many other large tech companies, I think, do form a foundation for other companies to build on. You need the talent they're attracting to do to share knowledge and exchange ideas. The other, you asked me about Fund 3 and what we're doing, and again, we haven't invested in infrastructure, let's say hardware per se, but it's more we started getting into cybersecurity, for instance, which we think is also, we also view as part of the infrastructure required for any tech ecosystem. And we invested. We also followed on a few of the investments we've that were invested in from previous funds. We deployed about 60% of the fund, mostly, but on a smaller number of companies. I think it's 12 companies, which is very different from what we used to do. I think it also it goes in line with what's happening globally. You see lesser deals, but much bigger ones. Consolidation and let's say winner takes all movement is the sad or difficult reality in technology is that in many cases winner does take all. So we're seeing bigger investments in fewer companies. I will probably, so we just announced our latest investments out of Fund 3, which is cash in. It's a 60 million Riyal Series A round. That's a company that focuses on enabling gas stations with a digital infrastructure. So gas stations have long been, let's say, an analog island in a digital ocean. So it was very, for different reasons, just never, or were late in digitizing. Cash in came up with a solution that's very powerful, robust, and complies with all the regulations, and helps all the different stakeholders, the gas station, the users, the corporates, and connects all the dots together. They're already active in 500 gas stations, and you'll see them across the kingdom. And I think in the next 3 months, they're expected to reach 1,500 gas stations. That resembles a champion we like to back, a company that disrupts and reshapes the market it's in. If you look at, it reminds me of what we did with Wresn, for instance. Wresn, I think over the span of 5 years, disrupted the way insurance is distributed in the kingdom. Today, the company is larger than most underwriters, most insurance companies, Wresn, and they only do distribution. And it's I believe it's the single largest distribution channel for auto insurance, at least.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Now, talk to me a little bit about gaming. So where did your interest in gaming begin? Because it's my understanding that there are only a couple of VCs at the moment in Saudi that are investing in gaming. It's Impact 46 and Merak Capital. There may be others that I'm not aware of, but obviously the Crown Prince is very bullish on gaming, and he's a gamer. So we have spoken to multiple gaming, savvy games and Mirai, and I want to know, where did your interest in gaming begin, and on a spectrum of infrastructure to, let's say, what do we call the other side of it? Let's think of, like, if you have infrastructure players, application layers, and maybe things that are more on luxury side. For me, like, I think of gaming more, nice to have. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, whereas because you definitely need the delivery and food, and before you get to gaming, right? So yeah. So how do you think of gaming in that?
Nice. Well, I guess the success we saw in VC got us excited, and we started thinking about what other areas we can also help grow and fuel. Gaming, I think it's long overdue. Saudi has the highest gamers per capita spend in the region, in the world, actually, in some instances. And yet we don't have, we barely have any studios, locally grown, homegrown studios. It's mostly consuming games from outside. I think it's long overdue for someone to start backing local studios and helping them generate and publish games that are from Saudi to the world. I think we are already, if you see Saudi's participation in the esports World Cup, the success our gamers have had, and the time they spend and the resources they spend on games, I think is worthy of, is enough for us to start being on the other side and maybe publish and create our own games. We decided to invest in Kamilna after a long and rigorous process. Kamilna is a game of course, the main game is a Balot game, which is a daily staple for Saudi. It's an identity, it's a cultural identity for us. I think the level of engagement in Kamilna users and gamers is hardly seen anywhere else. In mobile games, is for a 25-minute average session time is just let's say unheard of in the industry, and it shows you how big mobile games are for Saudis and how serious they take their mobile games. I think Of course, we're not going to stop at Beloit. Of course, we already we'd like to use this platform. كملنا, I'm talking to launch other games and scale across an engaged user base. We have 1 million active users that come to our game every day to play and enjoy. I'm sure they will be open to try out other games. We launched Jacaro recently, and that's seen very good success. A few other games in the pipeline. And I disagree with the notion you said about games not being very, let's say, essential to daily lives. I think they are.
I've never played a game.
You never play? Oh
never.
My God!
You know,
tell me that you're just too serious. Take a break.
Like literally, I have played 20 minutes of Minecraft in my life.
Minecraft only? No.
20 minutes, and that was like some kids were showing me what to do, and I was like, "Eat this watermelon so you don't die."
No. We will convert you. We do have. I mean. Mobiles are in our pockets every day, and having some fun and entertainment throughout the day, I think is only normal for the people. We're getting used to being engaged all the time. We want to fill all our times with something to do, and no better thing to do other than games. If you also think ahead a little bit, I mean, with all what we hear about what's coming in the future, the robots and AI will do the work.
And we just sit there and play games.
We just sit there and play games, exactly. Have fun. What better thing to do than play games? At least it's peaceful, and it's better than doing other things.
Yeah, apparently in the future we will not need money.
Yes.
It's a conversation, right? We're not going to need money because the robots do everything, and we sit there and play games.
Exactly, enjoy our time and play games.
I really need to up my gaming skills then.
Yes, why not?
Okay, so you talked about gaming, you talked about the infrastructure. Talk to me about your third fund and where you're going with that. Mm-hmm. How big is it? You know, what's the scope and what you're thinking in terms of what type of companies?
Okay, it's about $160 million fund. We're 65% deployed. We think we will hopefully fully deploy the fund by year end, and then think of next steps. As I mentioned earlier, it's the number of investments is less than what we're used to, but it's bigger bets on fewer companies. The focus is still, the thesis still remains the same. What worked elsewhere will work here. But we've evolved into SaaS businesses, more software and more cybersecurity plays are a bigger piece of the Fund 3. We also have the existing companies we followed on with fintechs and marketplace models continue to be part of the fund, but a smaller portion compared to previous funds. People always ask about AI. Of course, yes, AI is part of all the companies, but we've also made 2 bets specifically on AI. One is a conversational AI play.
What's it called?
It's called Moj.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, I know Moj. Yes,
that's doing very, very well, helping companies manage their customer service centers and inbound, outbound calls. The company's shown tremendous growth the last year and a half. That's been in, I think year and a half it's been in existence. So it's a very young company, but very ambitious and already making big strides in its field.
What's the other one?
The other one is Lucidia.
Oh yeah, of course, Lucidia.
Yes. It's customer experience. It's a wider focus, not just conversational, but it's it also had developed strong knowledge in its own NLP and local dialect, and it has a very strong social media listening platform that's widely used by a lot of enterprises in the kingdom and the region. And we're excited about these two companies. We continue to look for more. The challenge in AI is that we need a local differentiation. It's not just investing in another AI company. It has to prove that being local does help, or being from the region helps it win business over other players. And there is, and that's what we continue to focus on, and slowly discovering something new every day.
On the AI side of things, the question I have, I guess, is maybe less about the type of companies, but more, how is AI changing your thesis as an investor? So, for example, when you started 10 years ago, roughly, right?
Yeah.
So to now, surely it has changed your investment thesis because of the way that you do the research, the way that you think about how quickly some of the, say, SaaS models may become obsolete because of new AI applications that come on board. So how do you think of that, and how does it impact your investment thesis?
It just it forces you to sharpen your view and have take a stronger position on what you believe in will work in the future. It's not viable anymore to be just a generalist and hope that the tide will lift all boats. You need to be more focused. You need to pick winners that dominate their space. That have developed sector knowledge that's difficult to mimic by others. It makes you it just makes you focus more on what matters, and forces you to remove all the clutter, and you can't rely on someone cutting you slack. It's more focus on sector knowledge. I think, and I read a lot about the notion of say SaaS dying because of AI. I don't buy into that thesis. I think you still have sector knowledge that's not easy to be copied by AI. I also think modeling yourself around the users and utilizing the data sources you have, the data feeds you have around them, is also not easy to be mimicked by AI very quickly, or at least cannot be replaced quickly by AI. For now, at least. You need to obviously work harder to increase your stickiness of the product, and model it more around every user. But you still have an advantage over AI till now.
As we come towards the end of this conversation, another area that you're very active in that we should talk about is private credit. So when did you start thinking, we've cornered the market in VC, we've done really well here, let's look at some of the other areas, such as private credit?
Credit in general, I would say. Yeah.
Yes, credit
in general. Okay. About 2 years ago, we saw an opportunity in taking part of this development of the debt capital markets in Saudi. Debt remains a small part of the capital markets today, and equity is still the bigger part of the market, a much bigger portion. I think, and that phenomenon is observed in many other countries in the world. I think we believe this will change in the future. Saudi debt capital market is poised to grow, and there is room to develop it further. We see, without getting into historical reasons for why it is the case. I'd rather focus on the opportunity going forward. We see strong demand by corporates wanting to issue paper on the Saudis, the main sukuk and bond market. And we thought it would be a good diversification play for us as a firm to focus on a different part of the market. We're active in the, let's say, higher yield paper. Today, by the way, marked the listing of Raya Sukuk, which is first of its kind, a tier 1 for a non-bank financial institution. It's a path that was, or a funding line that was never available for non-bank financial institutions in the past. Now, with the opening up of the debt capital markets, we see fund flows that were never seen before, and we're excited about the future. We have the role we're trying to play is bridge the gap, as I said, especially in the higher yield market, where it takes you do need to exert judgment in choosing the right issuers for this financing tool. And it's been, I have to say, it's been rewarding so far. We have a healthy pipeline and many sukuk issuances coming to the market soon. We also developed a private debt market, or a direct financing fund, let's say. The first was both of them were linked to existing portfolio companies of ours. So we wanted our first experience in direct financing funds and private credit to be with a partner we know very well, which is a portfolio company of ours. So we set up the first fund to finance small merchants that use Hala payments as a payment solution. They can Hala can expand their offering to its merchants. By the way, it has 170,000 merchants across the kingdom to offer credit, not just payment. So today, a small merchant can fund his inventory and his working capital requirements on the fly from an application, a fully digital experience. And we are proud to be part of that enablement. So yes, I think the credit capital markets are an area of the market that's seeing really good growth, and we're hopefully capturing part of that.
Amazing. All right, so you've covered infrastructure, you've covered private credit and debt market in general, gaming, nice to haves, essentials. What's next for Impact 46 as you expand into your next phase?
We're actually closely looking at the real estate market and opening up to the market to freehold areas where a lot of foreign buyers are expected to step in. We think we have a role to play in the real estate development market as well. But that's still in the making, and hopefully we'll announce it in due course.
In some ways, you are like an author who has, or an artist who has won several awards and like been very successful and sold millions of copies. And people look at you and they're like, okay, this VC is so successful, and they have invested in all of these companies, bet on these companies that have won. But there must be some areas where you are still having doubts. Like, do you ever wake up in the morning thinking, am I doing the right thing? Am I betting on the right opportunity? and what goes on behind the scenes, in your brain when you wake up in the morning and look at new opportunities?
Of course, finding the next big opportunity is what you carry with you every day, every moment. I think we have a weekly pipeline meeting where everyone in the investment team comes and shares what any exciting company he met throughout the week. And that's where a lot of the questioning happens, and you start doubting yourself when you let's say shoot down an opportunity, or should I ask more? Am I cutting it off too early? That worries me a lot. I mean, as much as you need to show confidence for different people to learn from the patterns, you also worry that you're shutting down someone who just didn't communicate properly. The message wasn't delivered in the right way. And a lot of the good founders are actually not very good communicators either. So it also makes you worry a lot about missing the big opportunity. That's certainly one of the worries I always carry with me. And then, every once in a while, a young investment team member, let's say, asks you an unexpected question, and you find yourself that there is a lot you need to learn, and I think that helps you grow. Right? These doubts, these surprises, helps you grow and keeps you alert a lot more.
Yeah, I love it. It's basically like humility is a good trait to have, even if you are very successful.
Absolutely, right? Of course, yes, for sure.
Thank you for sharing this conversation. It's been amazing having you, and honestly, I'm in awe of what you have achieved, and it's been amazing.
Thank you, Somi, for this again, and I look forward to listening to this podcast and others. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.